Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to make this fella. This is obviously the Grinch with his little Christmas hat on, his little Christmas shirt. He is not smiling. I do have angry eyebrows, but hard to see. Anyway, let's get started. So, I am not going to use the same color green as I did last time. Last time I did this color green, but this is more suitable to the color he is. So I only did this because this was my first project, and I was saving what I had for my second project. So, I'm going to use a 5mm. Try to pull from the middle. There we go. So, this is a small project. He's not very big, obviously. You can see that. I am working with a new craft table. I have put this on it because underneath it is really shiny paint, and everything was kind of shining back. So, I hope that's fine. Let me know what you think. So, we're going to start with a magic ring. And we're going to put 8 single crochets into this magic ring. This yarn is not worsted, by the way. It's just 4-weight yarn. So you're going to need a stitch marker. I'm going to turn my light up just a little bit on my camera. So round number 1 is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So I'm just going to count to 16, but if you're going to use a stitch marker here, you will put it in after the first stitch. So that's my 16, and I know that I'm back around because of this guy. So I'll use my marker for the next round. Round 2 is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So that's my 1 single crochet. And then my next stitch gets an increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, all the way around, and this should give you 24 stitches at the end. So I did something wrong because I should have ended here with 2 single crochets in this last stitch. So I don't know where I went wrong, but your next round is going to be 1 single crochet in each of those 24 stitches. So if I don't have 24, I can fix it in this round. So that's number 1. So your next round, round 4, is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's number 2, so 2 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. One, one, two, one, one, two. So at the end of this, you should have 32 stitches. So you should have 32 stitches after that round, and the next 4 rounds, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 32 stitches. Then we're going to be switching colors. So that's my 4 rows. So this is what you should have at this point. We're going to change to white just for 1 row. And then we will go to our red. So you can change colors however you'd like to change colors. Sometimes I fasten off if I don't want any bleeding, you know, with the colors. Sometimes I fasten off just to make it nice and clean. And then other times I just do this. So I just lay the white in place. You can make a slip knot if it's easier, and I just make a stitch and make sure I pull down on my green, and then I gotta weave a little bit of the green in. But so your color change is going to be 2 rows. Sorry, I said 1 row earlier. 2 rows of the white. So we're just going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch. This row you don't need your stitch marker. Next row you're going to need your stitch marker. So this is what you should have. I eventually cut my green off, obviously. So we're going to switch to red now. I didn't go to 32 stitches. I stopped at 31 to do my switch, so it's almost just about in the same spot. So I'm just going to lay my red down and hold it like I'm just crocheting. I'm going to go in, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to make a stitch. So I need to pull my white all the way down and tighten that. And now I'm going to weave in some white. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 32 stitches for 2 rows with the red. Actually, no, not 2 rows. What am I talking about? 2 rows of 1 single crochet, but we're not changing from the red. Word that properly. I almost confused myself. So we'll start decreasing after this. So whenever you're comfortable cutting off your other color, so I am back around. And I got my 2 rows done. So now we're going to do 9 single crochets and a decrease. So that's number 1. That's 9 single crochets. And then a decrease. So you're going to use these 2 stitches. You're going to go in, you're going to yarn over and pull through and stop. You're going to go into your second stitch, yarn over, pull through. You've got 3 loops on. You're going to yarn over, you're going to pull through all 3 loops. And that's decrease. And that's your repeat. So 9 single crochets. and then a decrease. So you should have 30 stitches, so your next round is going to be 1 single crochet in each of those 30 stitches. Always number 1. So your next round this is where numbers kind of start getting weird. So your next round is going to be 7 single crochets and a decrease. And you're going to do that 3 times. And then you should have 3 single crochets left over. So that's number 1. Seven single crochets and then your decrease. And repeat. Seven single crochets, decrease. One more time. Seven single crochets and a decrease. So these remaining 3 stitches, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch. You can stuff this at any time. I don't because it's hard to hold on to. So you should have 27 stitches. You're just going to do your next round is 1 single crochet in each of those 27 stitches. So I've done my 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and this is what you should have. Now this one I'm doing here is going to be a little bit smaller than the one that I showed you because this isn't worsted. And that was worsted that I did with, so it's going to be a titch smaller. So your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and a decrease. That's number 1. That's 5 single crochets and then your decrease. So repeat this all the way around. At the end you should have 23 stitches. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. And then we're going to switch to white. Number 1. 3 single crochets and a decrease. So let's switch to white. Put some of my tail, sorry, I just smashed you. Some of my tail down there. So this next round we're going to do with white is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. So anyway, go into your next stitch, grab your white, make a stitch. Make sure you pull your red all the way down. You don't have to weave that in a bit. So 2 single crochets, so that's number 1 and that's number 2, and then your decrease. This should bring you down to 15 stitches, I think. Oh, I'm stuck. So we're doing the top of a shirt at this point. So we're going to be changing back to green so we can do his skin color. So I think I've weaved in my red enough. I'm just going to cut it off. I need some new scissors. So back around where I started. So you should have 15 stitches. So I'm just going to put one single crochet in each of those 15 stitches. And then we're going to switch to green. So try to push your stuffing out to the edges, and then that hole that you just dug, you can stick some stuffing right down that hole. It's an easier way to stuff. Once I get my crap out of the way. So we are crocheting the head on. I don't often sew the head on things, I crochet them on, so we will be crocheting this head on. So it's not like we're closing this up, so you don't have to fill it right to the top. Just make sure he's kind of plump, because that's, the Grinch has kind of got a belly. And I think I understuffed my last one because he doesn't have much of a little belly. That's good for now. We're going to switch back to green. So I'm just going to shove some green down into my stuffing. So we're going to start increasing at the same time as switching colors. Oops, I want to grab the green. So I'm just tucking the white in so I can weave it. So I'm going to go into this next stitch. Don't worry about everything being loosey-goosey right now. I'm going to just grab the green, make a stitch. So I'm going to pull down on the green. I'm going to pull down definitely on the white for sure. So I want to weave in my white. And I want to do one single crochet increase. So that's my one single crochet. So my increase is going to be 2 single crochets in the same space. So it's aggressive because I want a, you know, decently round head. So it might get a little squishy. You can cut the white off any time. It's being a pain in the bum. So I'm back around where I started. Shove that green tail down some more. Alright, so my next round I'll have to use my stitch marker. So when you don't fasten off and reconnect, this is what it looks like actually. That's just from a piece of yarn. I can get tucked in. So that's what it ends up looking like. But when you do fasten off and when you do fasten off and reconnect, this is what it looks like. So that's the difference. And that's why I fasten off and I reconnect, because it's such a cleaner look than this. But just remember, this is going to be the back of your doll. We're going to do everything where that's going to be the front. So your next round, you should have 23 stitches. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. I need your stitch marker here, so that's number 1. That's 2 single crochets and then your increase. So for the next 5 rows, this is as big as I want the head to be. So for the next 5 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 30 stitches that you should have. And I will see you on the other side. So this is what it should look like now. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. Let me take my row counter off. So it's number 1, 2, and a decrease. So this takes you back down to 23 stitches. So it should have 23 stitches, which is an odd number, which is why you couldn't finish your sequence. So you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 23 stitches. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet decrease. And then you're going to do 4 rounds of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that's 1 single crochet and then your decrease. So after you repeat this all the way around, you should have 16 stitches. So when you do your 4 rows, you're going to be just putting 1 single crochet in each of those 16 stitches. This will be up on my screen, don't worry. So, I got my 4 rows done. I got a little bit of stuffing in here, mainly just in the neck area. We need to kind of stop for a second and do some face stuff. So, I don't need to worry about the mouth or anything right now, or the little nose that I put on, but I want to get his eyes done. So, I think these eyes are a little high, because you can barely see my mean looking eyebrows. So those are my eyebrows. So without it, he actually looks like the Grinch. It's angry, but because my hat comes down so far, now he just kind of looks like he's smirking. So I'm going to do these a little differently, and I'm going to probably put them down lower, because right after we do the eyes, we only have like 3 more rows to put the head together, like to close it up. So I'm going to switch yarn. I'm going to switch hooks. So I'm going to go to a 4mm G. Set him aside for now. And I'm going to go to a white that is it's a 4-weight, but it's baby fine. So the eyes I did on my other guy was the same white that I was using, which is worsted. So I don't want to make that same mistake, so I'm just going to use the baby fine. I'm going to turn the light down on my camera, so hopefully it's easier to see what I'm doing. So the eyes are really, really quick. We're going to do a magic ring. And you're going to put 6 single crochets inside that ring. So that's my 6. I'm just going to pull it. So we got to make this shaped funny. Well, not shaped funny, but we got to put a shape to this guy. So this may seem weird to you, but trust me. First stitch, put 1 single crochet. The next stitch is going to get 2 half doubles. So yarn over, go into your stitch, pull through. You have 3 loops on, you're going to yarn over and come through all 3. That's half double. So put 2 of those in this next stitch. So 2 half doubles in that one. The next stitch is going to get 2 doubles. Yarn over, go through the stitch, grab some yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. Put another one in that same space. So 2 doubles. The next stitch is going to get the exact same thing. 2 doubles. So we're not pulling tight, you're just keeping it all nice and loose. The next stitch is going to get 2 half doubles. So we're just working backwards now to what we did on the other side. And then the last stitch gets 1 single. Just like that. So you can go into the next stitch and you can fasten off. Pull tight. Leave sewing enough for sewing. So that's your eye. So go ahead and make number 2 and then we'll come back here and we'll get everything all done. So I've got my second one done. So this hole here is where I put my safety eye into. And I just use these tiny wee little eyes. Just like that. That's my eyes. Remember, this is at the back. So we're going to turn this and we're going to do the front. So just make sure that your thing is at the back. So you need to figure out where it's going to go. We're going to shove this through to the inside, and once we sew around, then we're going to tie a knot. It just added security. You don't really need to. You can just shove this through and tuck it in. Actually, this having the back on it is probably enough security. So I'm going to try not to go as high as I did with my eyes before. So you're just going to have to figure out where you want them. How far apart, how close together. That seems, I don't know, it's probably going to look different when I sew this down. I want to leave this to put my eyebrows on and my hat, so you need to leave enough room. So you just got to do a little nose and then his mouth down here. So I'm gonna leave that for me. So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th row from the bottom. I'm going to put my backs on. Alrighty, so you can just stick this through where. So you kind of want the large part off to the sides. Well, I do anyway. I don't know about you. You can sew yours on any way that you would like. The fact that the top is open is really, really, really helpful. So I'm going to do short stitches in the front. And I'm going to do long stitches in the back. Sorry, it's not easy to sew on camera. I cannot hold it the way I want. I can't turn it the way I want. Not very easy. So if it seems like I'm quite awkward, it's because I am. So anyway, get your eyes sewn on. I'm going to cut this short because taking sewing lessons for me is probably a bad idea. I don't sew very well. I'm about where I started anyway. I'm just going to go in and tie a wee little knot with these two pieces just for added security. So go ahead, sew your other one on, and I will meet you back here. So that's my eyes. I'm gonna put some stuffing in him now that I'm done with that nonsense, because everything else can be sewn on after. And hopefully I've left enough room for my eyebrows this time. Alrighty, so I just put a little bit in. So back to the head. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. You should have, oh, wrong hook. Let's go back to our 5mm. Make sure you switch. Don't be like Tara. So that's number 1. I think. Did I do that? I don't know. 1 single crochet in each stitch for 16 stitches. So that's my 16 stitches. So you're going to do 1 single crochet in a decrease, which should take you down to 11 stitches. So that's my 1 single crochet. In a decrease. And again, it's an odd number, so I have an extra stitch. So it should have 11 stitches, so you're going to do 1 single crochet in each of those 11 stitches. And then we're going to sew the top shut from here. I know 11 seems like a lot, but that's 11. So We can go into the next stitch. Fasten off. So you need enough to sew the top shut. You need enough to weave with. So pull that tight. We're going to have to shove some stuffing down there, because we got to sew a hat to it later. Again, don't just shove willy-nilly. You need to help with the shape of the head. So press out and then shove some down the center. So you're supposed to have a funny looking head like that. So you need plenty of room for the eyebrows still, and then the hat to go on. There. So don't want to overstuff it because you don't want to see the stuffing through. So we're just going to sew the top shut. So you can just go into the next stitch, pick up a piece of yarn, just one. You can go out the other one, or you can completely skip one. I'm going to skip one. Personally, that's my personal choice. There's going to be a hat on this. So either way, it doesn't matter how you do it. Either way, we're just sewing up the head. So once I'm back around, I'm just going to pull that shut. Just like that. So you can come across and secure it with a little knot. And go through that loop. Pull backwards and forwards. That tightens that knot right up. And then you can just weave. Three different directions. Not that this is an arm or anything, but go in as close as you can to the tail. So it just looks like a stitch. And then just pop out wherever you're going to pop out. Don't pull tight. Snip it off. And there we have it. So, as far as the mouth and the nose go, and the eyebrows, I used a darker green to contrast. So it's not that much darker, but it's enough. It's enough to contrast. So, we're going to do that next. So this is pretty, it's not chunky. It's Lion's brand, so it's good. It's, if you know what I mean. But it is just a 4-weight. It's not worsted or anything. So, let's just do the nose. It seems to be short and sweet. Just need a little tiny piece. Don't need anything spectacular. We're just going to tie a knot. Thread your needle. So it doesn't matter where you come in, it just matters where you come out. So my eyes don't even look even, but that one's down a little bit. But I'm just going to come in and put it right in here, or right there. So wherever I come in, I'm going to come out on the other side and back over this way. So it's just a tiny wee little nose. So I'm going to come in. Now don't pull this knot into the doll. We're going to poke it. Makes a big difference. Come across where you want your nose to be, and then you're just going to pop out wherever. So just a nose that's not noticeable. You can go back in, same hole, come back out, there. So we didn't make a stitch in here, we just moved our yarn. So go back down the same hole and then back out again. So that's all we're doing for the nose, because it's there but it's not. So as far as this goes, you can just make a knot, and then you're going to poke this down inside the doll as well. make a wee knot, cut it off just so till you have a little tiny nubby, and then you can push that down into the stuffing. And then you want to push that down into the stuffing. So we have a nose. It's not really noticeable, but it is noticeable. Does that make sense? So let's get the eyebrows done. You're going to need quite a bit for the eyebrows. And again, one end you're going to tie a knot. That's going to be your pokey down end. You don't need to have a huge tail on it. So again, doesn't matter where you come in, just matters where you come out. So I'm going to go in wherever I want my eyebrow to be as close to the eyelid as possible. So I'm going to come out right there. I'm doing 2 eyebrows and wrapping with this, so I want a bit of a point, but I don't want it too high because the hat's going to be up here. So I'm just going to go down here. But I really want between the eyes because I want him to look angry. So again, this is going to be noticeable but not noticeable. So I'm going to come back around and out the same hole. So he's got this angry looking face, but he's got some bushy eyebrows. So what I ultimately ended up doing was wrapping his eyebrows. So I went up underneath the eyebrow and I wrapped my yarn all the way around. So this can be time consuming, especially when you got a long piece like I have. But ultimately, it looks really good. So just make sure you're pressing that down. And that's all you're going to do, is you're going to constantly just wrap this eyebrow. So it gives it a little bit of definition. And it kind of keeps everything together. So it looks like one piece, if you do it right. So try to fill this spot as best as you can, or overfill the spot. Like when you're wrapping, try to shove in as much as you can. And then when I go over to my other side and I overfill that, it should ultimately look like one eyebrow. And then if you wanted to, you could even probably take a brush to this and make them fuzzy. I definitely could with this yarn. This yarn's pretty good for that. You might have a harder time with worsted weight, making it fuzzy. But he's got some pretty fuzzy eyebrows. So he does. So once you're satisfied with your eyebrow, once you're satisfied with the way this looks, actually I might be able to do one more in here. Just trying to overfill the space. Anyway, I'm going to go down and I'm going to come up the same hole again because this other eyebrow is going to share the hole with this guy. So we're going to do the exact same thing. You're just going to come up to where you want your eyebrow to come up and then come down, trying to make it even. I think I was this close to the eye. And then go back up to that hole and come back down to this hole. And then you're going to wrap again. So I've done my eyebrows. I think I have enough to do my mouth. So I'm still in the doll, so let's get that done next. So I'm going to go into the same hole because I just want to move my yarn. And I'm going to go up here because I want to do a frowny face. So this is going to be my starting position. So to get a frowny face, I have to go up and then down a little bit. So I'm in this row here. I gotta go up to this row. So I'm gonna go up to this row. Somewhere in the center of his eyes, preferably. We're gonna round it out anyway. And I want to go back down into this row. Actually, I could probably go lower. So let's move down one more row. Let's move down to here. We don't need to squish everything in that squishy. Oh yeah, my nose is there too. So let's go down one more. So I'm just moving my yarn at this point. So then I can come up here and back down to here. So come up and find your middle point anyway, which is going to be right underneath the nose that you can hardly see. And then just come back down. Pop out. Try to be even like that. Then I'm just going to go back up into there and come back out the bottom. Same hole. And then I'm going to wrap this too, because you don't want this point. Because if I don't wrap it, there's going to be this point. And it's going to look horrible. So, to shape this properly, you're probably going to have to grab some pieces of yarn from the head to give it a shape when you're wrapping. Or else it may just look like a great big mustache. So I'm just going to grab a piece of yarn. I don't know if you can see that. It's just such a tiny... Oh, my camera won't focus. It's just a tiny piece of yarn. Because I want to pull up on this a little bit. Bring my mouth up a little higher. So I can do that a couple times. Just grab a couple of pieces of yarn from the face. And that's how you can shape it. And again, just going to grab a piece of yarn. Okay, so mine almost looks like handlebar mustache. I am not good at sewing. Anyway, when you're finished, you can just bring your yarn out the side, tie a little knot. I got a lot of crap. I got a lot of yarn still left over. Let's get rid of all that. Tie your knot. Doesn't have to be tight, just has to be there. Poke it down. Then you can poke your other piece down. There we go. So, just light. Light's a little bright. But that's his angry face anyway for now. With this hat on there, hopefully I've left enough room this time that his hat can not cover his eyebrows. So the hat, I guess we'll do next. So we're going to start with red. We're going to work our way from the tip down. This is a worsted red heart. I'm going to use my G hook, my 4mm, and I'm going to start with the magic ring. So I'm going to put 6 single crochets into the center. So I want this hat with a point on it. So we're not going to do our regular 2 single crochets in each stitch around. We're going to go straight into a 1 single crochet increase, and that's going to help me with this point. So after your first single crochet, you're going to do your increase. So this should give you 9 stitches. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's my 12. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. So that'll bring you up to 15. It's 3 single crochets and then my increase. And repeat. The next round is 4 single crochets and an increase, and this will take you to 18 stitches. So your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase. So for the next 6 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 30 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So I've done my 6 rows, and this is what it should look like. So your next row is going to be 7 single crochets and an increase. So we don't need a stitch marker anymore, so we're going to do little things a little bit differently. We're going to change to white, and we're going to put the ribbing on the edge of the hat. So I want you to go into your next stitch, and I want you to slip stitch. And then I want you to do a chain 2 with your white. Or you can just fasten off and reconnect, however you want to do it. So I'm going to do my chain 2 with my white. I'm going to pull right down on my red. I'm going to have to weave this in for a bit. That's alright. So I'm going to do 1 double crochet. 1 double crochet in each stitch. Weaving in my ends. I'm going to cut my red off. I think it's weaved in enough. So I'm back around. You know it's hard to see because it's white. I'm just going to slip stitch to the top of this first chain, and I'm going to chain 2. So now we're going to do front post, back post double crochets. So starting in, not this one, this one. I'm going to do front post, double crochet. And then I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to do a back post double crochet. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go around the front post, pull up, and I'm going to grab the back post, pull up. So every time I do it, I pull up on my yarn. So front post, pull up, double crochet, back post, pull up, double crochet. So we're going to do this all the way around. So I started with the front post and ended with my back post. This is my first chain 2 right there. So I'm just going to go to the top of this front post because there's a stitch. I'm going to slip stitch. I'm going to fasten off with a tail for sewing. So you need enough to sew around his head. So I'm just going to take my yarn and I'm just going to pull it through because I prefer that. It actually pulls that fasten off knot. It kind of pulls it down. So, and that little guy, that's where I cut my yarn off and it's kind of popping out. So that's our little hat. So we got to do a pom-pom for the top of it. So pom-poms are super quick and easy. So take your white and you're just going to wrap your fingers depending on how big of a pom-pom you want. So once you're done wrapping, you need another little piece. It can be as long as short as you want. We're gonna poke it down through the hat and tie a knot with it. So you want to take this off your spinners. Just like that. Lay it down here and you're going to tie a tight knot around the center of it. So make sure it's the center. You have a loop sticking up. I think it's from that guy. Oh, maybe not. I don't know what that's from. Anyway, tie a very tight double knot. So you want to hold these two pieces. They're going to come in handy. I'm just going to use some scrap pieces to do my cutting on. So then I can just pick it all up. So you need a decently big pair of scissors for this. You're going to go through all these loops. And you're going to cut them in half. Make sure you get all your loops. These are not sharp scissors at all. So go through your loops. Making sure to get them all. There's one. So once you think you have them all, which again, I don't. Oh, these scissors suck. Alright, so once you think you have them all, you're going to start giving it a haircut. I'm going to cut these two big pieces. So, the more you trim, the fuzzier it'll get. Alright, I could trim all day. I can trim it after it's on the hat. So, get your hat. And a needle. So we're just going to put this down through the top the best we can. I got all kinds of stuff in here. So, let's pull it right through. I'm just going to tie a knot. This is what you would do with a normal hat with a pom-pom on it. You would just tie a knot. Really tight. Really tight double or triple knot. And because it's so tight, the knot is so small that you would never feel it anyway. So this piece of red, this is obviously my from my beginning of my project. I'm just going to make a knot. I'm not going to really make it that tight because I don't want it to push through. I'm going to cut it off with a little nubby. This isn't an actual hat, or I would have had to weave it in. But, and that is your little pom-pom for the top. So, make sure it sits high enough that you can still see his angry eyebrows. Because that was the mistake I made on my other one, is I didn't have it, I didn't have it in place where it showed his angry eyebrows. So you can have it off to the side of his head like that. Or you can sew it on any way you want to sew it on. Either way, it's supposed to flop over like that. He has such a frowny mouth, I don't even know if it matters. I'm going to do what I did with my other one. I'm just going to have it kind of hanging off my head, off the side. So you can sew it on any way you want. I'm not a sewer, so I'm not that great at it. I'm just going to stick it in and make stitches in the white. Holy crap. Got too much stuff on my table. Here we go. So my hat's on. It's hard to see that you can shape this. Because we used I used worsted and I used a hook smaller than what I should. It's tight enough that you can do whatever you want with it. Make it all scrunchy. So that was the point of that. Anyway, that's my guy so far. We got to do his arms and his legs, and then we're all done. So we're going back to a 5mm, which is an H hook, and we'll start with the arms. So start with green, and we're going to make a magic ring with 4 single crochets in the center. That's 4. You're gonna, I want it pointy, so you're gonna do 1 single crochet increase. Get into the first stitch. First stitch is always difficult, I don't know why. So, I don't really need a stitch marker, you can put it in if you want, but I only have 4 stitches, so I'm gonna do this twice. So that's 1 single crochet, and then an increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. So now I'm back around because of this, for starters, and because I only had 4 stitches. So you should have 6 stitches at this point. We're going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. So you can just count to 12. Make your life easy, or you can put in the stitch marker if you want. So that's my 2 rows. So you can just shape it around the end of your hook and make sure that you've pulled that middle closed. I am stuffing the tip only. The rest of the arm is not getting stuffed. So we're going to change to white. You can change your color any way you choose to change your color. I am going to fasten off because I like my color change to be nice and clean. I don't like how it bleeds into each other. So I just fastened off. I'm going to change to white. I'm only doing 1 round of white. So make a slip knot. You're going to go in, if you're doing it like me, you're going to go in the same place you fastened off. You're going to make a stitch. And then you're going to put another single crochet in there, just so you don't lose that stitch. So this round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's stitch number 1, 2 single crochets, and then an increase. I'm going to go in and pull this green through, which is what I should have done in the first place. It's kind of annoyingly in the way. So I'm going to be switching colors again. I'm going to shove this down, which is why I filled the hand, because I end up filling it with all these pieces. You don't actually need polyfill. I'm stuffing it with all these pieces. So I'm back around. Just to make it look, so this spot where you fastened off, I'm just going to put an extra stitch in there. But I'm going to skip this one and I'm going to come across to fasten off. So I know that seems weird, but I just kind of wanted to close up that gap where you'd see that piece of green, and I hate that, hate that, hate that. So I fastened off with the white. I'm going to go into the next stitch and I'm going to pull it through, and then I'm going to tuck that down. And I got to change to my red color because I want it to make him look like he's wearing a sweater and not a cut-off thing. So again, same thing. Make a slip knot with your red, and then you can reattach where you fastened off. Put a single crochet into that space. So there should be 10 stitches after this round. This round's going to consist of 3 single crochets and an increase, bringing you to 10. So that's number 1. And we kind of wanted to stop at 10 because I think that's big enough for the arm. So that's 3 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in that space. Three single crochets and an increase. So because I put this extra stitch in to cover up this space, I'm going to have these, I now have these 2 extra spaces. So I'm just going to do a decrease here. Now you don't have to do what I'm doing. You didn't have to put that extra stitch in either before I fasten off. So that should cut it down and bring it in nicely so that, again, there's no gap. So you should have 10 stitches, and for the next 11 rows you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 10 stitches. If you don't have 10, this is where you can fix it by adding or decreasing, but you will need your stitch marker again. and probably your row counter, if you have one. So that's my 11 rows. That's what it should look like. And again, we're not stuffing this. Just what our end pieces that we put in our hand, that's the only stuffing that goes in this thing. And it's not even polyfill, it's just the end pieces. So you can fasten off with a sewing tail. So go into your next stitch. Pull this through. So we're just going to sew the top up with a whip stitch. So a whip stitch is generally back loop to back loop, and you can do it that way if you want. All the way across, back loop to back loop. You don't need all four pieces to close it up. It is just getting sewn to the body, so it's no big deal how you do it. But that's what a whip stitch is. So, once you've got it whip stitched shut, you just need to determine where it's going to go on your guy. And then invisible stitches generally are the best practice, so you're going to go down as close as you can to the arm and to your lead. So if you have a hook that's bent like this, it's easier. Go into the doll and into the arm. So when you pull, this will get sucked underneath the arm and you won't see the stitches. So those are invisible stitches. So once you get to the end, you can just go straight into the doll and out. And then you can just weave back and forth into the red. Go in as close as you can to your lead so it just looks like a stitch. And try to go 3 different directions. And then I still like to tie a knot and poke it down, just for added security. So it doesn't have to be a tight knot, it just has to be a knot. And then you can leave a little nubby, and then that just gets poked down into your filling, just like that. So go ahead and make your second arm and get that sewn on, and I'll meet you back here and we'll get the legs done. So I changed the mouth on my guy. I didn't like my mouth, so I kind of put a smirky mouth on him. And then I added some more to his nose. I gave him 2 pieces of a nose. But he still doesn't look like he's Grinching. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought with the angry eyebrows and the smirky smirk, he'd look like he was Grinching. But yeah, he's not really. But anyway, hope your face comes out better. Post your Grinch on my Facebook page. The link's below. Post your Grinch. Hopefully your Grinch turns out better than my Grinch. So let's get the legs done and then we're done. Our doll is going to be finished. So these are all green. There's no switching colors for this. So we're going to start off with a chain. So chain 7. You're going to single crochet back 5. You have 6 working stitches, so that should leave you with 1 stitch. So that's 5. In this last stitch, you're going to put 4 single crochets. All in the same space. So you'll notice it's going to turn, and you're going to turn with it. So that's your slip knot now. So now we're turned sideways. In the stitch right next to the knot, that's where you're going to start, and you're going to put 5 single crochets. And the very tippy top is number 5. You can put a stitch marker, or you can just follow my, it's just a tiny little foot, but you can put a stitch marker here would be your first stitch in the next row, or you can just follow my numbers. You should have 14 stitches. You're going to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each stitch. There, that's my 2 rows done. So that's the start of your little footsie. So it should look like a little boat. So your next round is going to be 6 single crochets. Then you're going to decrease twice. That's 6 single crochets, and then you're going to decrease twice. So now we're around the toe area. So you go into your first stitch and pull through, go into your second stitch and pull through, and then pull through all 3. That's your decrease. And do it again. And then 4 single crochets. Brings you back to the heel. So this is our heel, this is our toe. So you should have 12 stitches. You're going to do 6 single crochets again. That's 6 single crochets. And then decrease 2 times. And then you're going to have 2 single crochets and you're back to the beginning. So now that we've got the shape of our foot, we're going to do 11 rows of 1 single crochet in each of these 10 stitches. So it's the same size as the arm at this point. This is what you should have. This is what it should look like. So we are going to be squishing it like this and sewing it on. So that's your toe. It's going to be squished this way. So I need to move my, first of all, you need to fasten off. So fasten off for the sewing tail, obviously. And we're gonna need to move, pull that through for some reason. Anyway, so I need to whip stitch it. So that's kind of in a bad spot, so I need to kind of move it around over here. You can do this with a needle or with a hook. It doesn't matter how you do it. Anyway, move this so that you can sew it. So I'm not sewing, I'm just moving my yarn. So now that I've got it in the right spot, now I only have it stuffed up to about the ankle. I don't have any of this stuffed. So I'm going to whip stitch the top closed. So you have to make the decision on where you're going to put your leg. It's probably better to get the other one built first, and then you can decide where to sew it on. So go ahead and build your other leg, and then we'll meet back here. So I am done my other leg. I just have to whip stitch it. So get both your legs. Decide whether you want your guy to be like this, or whether you want your guy to be like this, or whether you want your guy to be like this. So it's all up to you as to where you pin your legs. So I think I want my legs to be just kind of like that a little bit. I'm just going to lift him up, and I'm going to pin him just like that, so I know basically where it is. I'm going to start sewing this guy on. So it looks to me like I've basically right at the circle, but I'm kind of aimed, I don't know. It's hard to explain where I'm sewing mine on. But it's completely up to you where you sew yours on. It all depends on what you think looks better. So I'm just going to do invisible stitches again, as usual. I'm going to tie a knot in case somebody tries to yank my leg off. The theory is this knot's going to get lodged in the stuffing, and it won't be able to get pulled out all the way, so that you can try to salvage your leg and then poke that right down into the stuffing, tail and all. And then the other leg is going to go probably like that. I think I'm happy like that. So I got mine legs far enough apart where he kind of sits up on his own a little bit. So we are all done with our guys. Now we got a couple of them. He's bigger because he was done with worsted weight, so he is a bit bigger. He's got a different mouth. This is the actual color, so this was just kind of a prototype, and this I wanted to do with the actual color of the Grinch. So anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. Let's get him out of the way. Thanks for joining me, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.